All right, so this video is going to be about fishing a chatterbait. So I've learned some things over the years fishing this, and I just want to pass them on. So I'm going to be throwing a couple different ones. The first one is a jackhammer. They're actually going to both be jackhammers. This one is a golden shiner type color, and this is a Kitech fat swing impact shad, I think is the way you say it. It's been a while since I've said that. This is the 3.5-inch version. I am fishing this on 17-pound fluorocarbon, and I am using a composite rod. This is actually the Lew's KBD CC3, and let's look over here. We got 7.1 medium heavy action, moderate bend. That's what's important. Moderate bend glass composite, and as you can see, this is the Accuracy bladed jig / KBD 2.5 rod composite. So I like this rod a lot. That's the first setup I'm going to be using. I have another one as well, and that is going to be the same jackhammer in a black and blue with a Yamamoto Seiko on it, matching trailer. Still 17-pound test fluorocarbon. This is a glass rod, and you'll notice I'm not using the straight graphite on either one of these. This is a 7.2 glass cranking Daiwa Tatula rod, and it also has that moderate bend in it. And I'm just pairing it with a matching Tatula reel. Both of these are 7-to-1 gear ratio reels. This is a Tatula one. That one is the Johnny Morris Carbon Light one. So matches up well. And I should say I'm fishing over grass. That's where I'm trying to throw chatterbaits most of the time, especially here in Florida, because we have a lot of lakes with grass in them. You can see down there on the fish finder right here, all this grass. That's what I'm trying to throw over and around. And so what I'll try to do is get it down in the grass and then pop it free. I like the way the glass and composite rods pull the bait free without yanking it too much away from the grass. So I feel like a graphite rod, and especially if you were using braid, you know, it would yank it straight out of the grass. Now you can still generate a reaction strike that way, but I like the way this kind of yanks it out and then keeps it close by. And before we get too far into this video, I want to encourage you to check out the GPSstore.com. They are our partner for the year. They've got great deals on marine electronics and anything GPS related, anything electronics related. They've got 1-day shipping on a lot of items and 2-day shipping on even more items. One of the cool things that they've got is combos. So they can set you up with a Livescope and a fish finder and get you a good deal on it, and then sell you the whole thing all at once. That way you don't have to go shopping for, you know, different things and all like that. So I encourage you to check them out. I'll leave a link down below, and it'll definitely help out the channel. Thank you. So I also think one of the things to do, there's a few things to do to keep you from losing fish on a jackhammer or a chatterbait, whichever bladed jig you decide to throw. And the reason that fish get off really is because there's a big pivot point here that allows the fish, you know, a lot of room to throw the bait. You know, it's a big hook, and if they don't get it down in their crusher or close to it, and they get it up around the lip, they have a, you know, it's an easy time to manipulate that and throw it while they're jumping. So there's a few things we can do to eliminate that. One is to use a softer rod, like I've already talked about. 2 is to use fluorocarbon line, or even monofilament is not a bad option either. I prefer fluorocarbon, but something that has a little give in it. Now I do know some people that use braid and they have good luck with it. To me, it's a little bit too stiff, and you can, you know, pull the hook out of the fish's mouth a little easier. Plus, it is more sensitive, and that's the main thing, is that you can feel that bite a little too early. Whereas on this fluorocarbon with a glass rod, I feel it delays that a little bit and allows the fish to get it down a little bit deeper. Now, some other things you can do is to think about if you're actually throwing the right bait or the right color. or if you're reeling at the right speed, you know, you may be reeling it too fast, and so they're not actually getting it in there. You're kind of taking it away from them. And so that's another thing, is that if they're not sucking it all the way in, you know, maybe, I don't know, bass, you know, how they think about it, but you know, when they come up to it, maybe they realize it's not quite what they want, and just the last second they turn away, and so they don't have it quite as good as you would if you were using a different color or a different bait or something to that effect. Depending on what gear ratio reel you're using, you can tend to reel a chatterbait too fast, or I know I can anyway. So I'm fishing in basically 5 to 6 foot of water, and I've got some grass topping out at about 2 feet. And if I reel too fast, I'm not going to get it down into that grass where I want it. You can still get bit, but really on a chatterbait, you want to get it down, hitting something, yanking free of something. You want to be very in your retrieve. You don't want to just be reeling it straight in. And the good thing about fishing a chatterbait is the reason why it's one of my favorite things to fish, despite its, you know, propensity to lose more fish, I guess, than some other baits, is that it tends to just catch better than average fish. So it's kind of like a jig and a spinnerbait mixed together. Both of those baits are, you know, known to catch bigger fish, quality fish. And so this is, the chatterbait's one of my favorite things to use in a tournament where you're looking for a little bit better than average fish. You may not get quite as many bites, but I feel like the bites that you do get are a little better quality. So let's talk a little bit about the hook set on a chatterbait when you get a bite. You don't want to almost treat it like a crankbait. I say like a mixture between a crankbait and a Carolina rig. You mainly just want to get the bite, give it a second, maintain steady pressure, and then as you maintain that pressure, just lean off to the side like you do with a Carolina rig. But except you're leaning off to the side as opposed to, you know, swing setting the hook. So you're more just leaning into them. And the other thing I would say with regard to colors is don't overthink it that much. You know, you can go crazy, geek out all kinds of different colors. You know, I'd say a white or a shad color, a golden shiner type color, a black and blue, and then a green pumpkin. And those are basically all the colors you really need. And so I fish the jackhammer, especially down here in Florida, because it tends, not only does it have, you know, higher components, higher quality components, I should say, but the blade on it tends to start, you know, wobbling as soon as you start reeling it after it hits the water. Whereas the original chatterbait and some of the others, you got to kind of get it going first before it'll start wobbling. And that's especially important here because, you know, I'm fishing in 5.5 feet of water with grass topping out into, you know, 2 to 1 foot. And so you need that blade to get going quick. And anytime you catch a chatterbait fish, that's the first thing that I look at anyway, is that, all right, where on the fish is he hooked? Is he hooked in the top of the lip and, you know, barely in that real thin area, or is it down deep in the gullet? Some of that's just random luck, I will certainly admit. But if more often than not it's in the gullet, then I say I'm doing something, you know, I'm doing it right. I'm using the right bait, using the right combination. If it's more, you know, in the lip, then I think I need to relook at what I'm doing to where I can get it down in the gullet. If you're struggling fishing a certain technique, but you want to get better at it, it's so hard to do, but you really have to just keep it in your hand as much as you can. You know, if you have to, just leave everything else at home if you don't think you have the discipline to do it. I know I probably don't, so I would have to keep everything else at home. And a chatterbait is like that. Keep fishing it, keep refining it until you get it the way you like. A jig is another thing that's in the same way. You know, it doesn't get a lot of bites, and so you may have to just keep it in your hand. You know, big swim baits, that kind of thing. You just got to keep throwing it. Because, you know, if you throw it for 10 minutes and then put it away, and you're like, oh, I never catch anything off of this. Well, that's why. There's one. Good one. See, he got it down in the gullet. Baby, stay on. Yes! Yes! That's why you got to keep throwing it. That is why you got to keep throwing it. Yeah, see, he didn't get it up here in this thin area. Got it down there in the tongue area where he wasn't coming off. Yeah, well, it was still on there pretty light, like he wasn't stuck. Let's get a good weight on this one. 4.76, close to 5. There you go. Nice. Wow, beautiful. Look at that. Awesome. There you go, buddy. You notice I use a net too. I don't normally use a net, but I think for chatterbait it's probably a good idea, because the ones that I used to tend to lose would be pretty close to the boat. You know, they do one last head shake and it would come off. So I started using a net when I fished chatterbaits. And, you know, he did not hit it hard either. It was, you know, I almost thought it was grass. I just felt the blade stop spinning, and I actually kind of let it sit for, you know, just a split second. And then I just kind of leaned into him. Like I said, you don't want to jerk back, because if they do have it deep, you stand the chance of jerking it, you know, from deep to then getting them in the lip. Well, that does it for this video. Thanks so much for tuning in. I definitely appreciate it. If you like this content, I did a video a few weeks ago on my top 3 lures that I like to use for early summertime bass fishing. You can check that out right here. Also, be sure to check out the gpsstore.com for all things marine electronics. I definitely appreciate it, and it sure will help out the channel. Thanks so much again for watching. This is Rob with Instinct Bassin. Trust your gut, and I'll see you on the water.